Welcome back to another episode of Reading Between the Lines. Now May is leaving. You got to witness a very rare situation where she was actually sitting on my lap. Anyway, Reading Between the Lines, Life is Strange episode. I keep doing that. Volume 4, tracks, which wasn't that isn't that a Life is Strange 2 episode or something? Something similar to that. There was roads, I guess. I don't know. Maybe tracks wasn't one of them. It just sounds very Life is Strange 2-esque. Hey, speaking of Life is Strange 2, Brody was in this for like 5 seconds. And I was like, that was Brody, right? And it was. It was him. It was Brody. That was pretty cool. He didn't really do anything, and he was in the alternate timeline, so like, it's impossible that was the timeline where... I mean, he probably did at some point in that timeline meet Daniel and Sean, but like, maybe? I don't know. Because the storm never happened, so that actually impacts one of their interactions there, so that's interesting. But, anyway, so, yeah, I mean, that's just like a minor part of this episode. I said episode of this issue. So, this one doesn't really progress things anywhere. It's just more, like I said last time, it's probably just going to be them on their road trip journey with the band and all of that. And that's basically what it was. It's a lot about the alternate timelines kind of happening at the same time sort of thing. So we get to see a lot of Chloe from her timeline and from Max's timeline, and then, you know, the alternate timeline that we're in with Rachel Amber and all of that. And Tristan indeed did get to the other timeline, and that was him talking to Chloe at the end there. And he wakes up and he like explains everything, and Chloe's like crying or whatever, and it's like, yeah, that's basically how that would go. But so yeah, I mean, so that happened. But they didn't really go very much. They didn't go anywhere really with that. I guess like the most like reoccurring thing here was like you would see moments where the timelines like they're following Chloe on her trip, or they think they are, at least the presence of Chloe or whatever, as they go on their trip. So there's moments when they feel each other across time or whatever. And there was like a moment where they're in this, not pirate town, there's the western town. They're dressed as pirates in the Rachel Amber timeline, and then in Chloe's timeline, Max's timeline, you know, like the old timeline, the original timeline, I should say, they're dressed as western people. So, but Chloe sees herself in the mirror, and then the other Chloe also sees herself in the mirror. But the mirror is like seeing the different two universes. So the Western Chloe sees Pirate Chloe with Max, who's a pirate because she's in the pirate timeline. And then Chloe just like they both see Chloe as the Western Chloe, if that makes any sense. It's a lot of that kind of stuff in this issue, just like time stuff and like little signals to each other from across time. There's moments where Max is like using her powers again to like save a guy from falling off a cliff and like stopping a van, the band's van, from like getting hit by a tree. And in the other timeline, they actually avoid that, so it's like a alternate like thing there. It's interesting. But anyway, so but the Chloe in the Rachel Amber timeline gets really angry actually at Max about her using her powers, and she's like, I don't want to keep losing these moments of my life, essentially. And she's kind of mad about that. And it's interesting what she says, because she's like, sometimes bad shit happens, and you have to let it happen because good stuff comes from that. Whereas the Chloe in the other timeline, I mean, she organically learns that too, in a way, but she still has that, like, she still really holds that whole her dad dying thing like super. Um, it's like kind of the opposite thing is what I'm trying to say. But she does learn that eventually in the other timeline too, obviously. But both, we were to presume William dies in both timelines, but I don't know. Well, whatever, I'm just saying it's kind of an interesting thing that she's preaching there. But maybe it didn't affect her as much in this timeline. I don't know. Anyway, my point is, like, that's the main idea of the volume. There's not a lot of, like, really big character stuff going on or any of that. It's really just more about us watching them in their own two timelines, and it gets a little confusing sometimes. But it's like the Tristan timeline is where Chloe is, our Chloe from the original game, and then obviously Max is in the other timeline. So at one point he actually crosses over in the van, but she's just trying to save the band, but she didn't like go and check on the band, which was like what Chloe was saying, like maybe they were fine. And then Tristan would also be there in that timeline, and then things would have progressed a little bit farther or whatnot. And that was the other thing, is the issue like really didn't end on anything. It just kind of ended on one of the girls from the band like finding out, I think, that Tristan has powers or something. I don't know. She was like suspicious of him the whole volume or whatnot, and like that it's just kind of weird that he showed up out of nowhere, and Chloe kind of made up the fact that he was from Arcadia Bay even though he wasn't or whatever. So I don't know. It's just kind of interesting. There was a reference to Hilda in the there's a scene where Rachel Amber and Max are changing in a bathroom or whatever, and they're actually talking about how the whole thing where she's like different from her counterpart in Max's timeline, and then like Chloe's a different Chloe too or whatnot. But on the door, on Max's door, you could see a little twig, like somebody drew a twig on there from Hilda in the corner, which is interesting. Also, I guess this is true, but I don't know. I saw this in my Hilda thing as I was posting that in my group there. But the girl from The Last of Us now that's playing Ellie in The Last of Us is the voice of Hilda? Like, I didn't realize that. I knew she was, like, famous or whatever, but, like, that's so weird to me, like, now. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll talk about that show at some point. I've only ever seen the first episode thus far. It's just really pretty similar to the game, so I don't know if there's enough to really go on about there. But, yeah. So, really not a lot that happened in this one. It's just kind of more them, sticking together, whatnot, or seeing each other's timelines. Like, we see both the different timelines. It's an interesting concept. They're taking the same vacation in two different universes and whatnot, but I kind of just want to get to something happening, and I assume that's what's going to happen in the last issue, is we're finally going to get back to the original timeline. I just don't feel like a lot happened here, and that's kind of was my complaint, if anything. Like, it was fine. I definitely enjoyed seeing some of the stuff happening, some of the little cameos and references and whatnot, but, what was I going to say? There was something I was going to bring up, but I forgot. Yeah, anyway. Oh, Chloe's hair in the original timeline is green now, just like in Life is Strange 2. When you do the They Survived, or She Survives timeline, where you sacrifice Arcadia Bay kind of thing. So that's interesting. Maybe we are leading into that timeline. Now that, like, the game came out and all the episodes came out and the whole David thing happened, maybe the comics are gonna finally try to converge with that so it actually lines up and makes sense. And then that way the game would be referencing an event from the comics, like tying the bridge together, and it'd be nice, like, little bow so the comics are actually kind of like canon. I think that'd be pretty cool. But yeah. It's interesting they meet Brody, though. Oh, Rachel Amber knew him from his blog or whatever, which makes sense. But, I know it does. They don't have anything to do with each other, but I just kind of want to see, like, I said this in the last time, didn't I, too? Where I'd love to see, like, Max and Chloe, like, meet up with Sean and Daniel there, but I don't think it's ever gonna happen because, like, it's just, you know, like, how would that happen? And then, you know, the way you left Life is Strange 2, like, how would it happen with that? Unless you got, like, what, the bad ending or whatever? I don't know. I would still love to see that happen at some point. Maybe they'll make more Life is Strange comics or something. I don't know. Maybe they'll make one about Life is Strange 2, where they both make it to, you know, where they both made it to Mexico, the bad timeline, or whatever. And they'll do a bad timeline thing of that. Kind of like the bad ending of this is the canon thing. I don't know. Anyway, who cares? Point being, I don't know. It was alright. I'm looking forward to the next issue. I just want to see how it all kind of ends and see her get back to her own reality and whatnot. There wasn't a lot that happened in this issue, this issue, whatever, you know, this volume. So I think the last few were a lot better at, like, exploring a lot of character stuff and whatnot. But I pretty much talked about what there was to talk about. There's just not a lot going on in this one. So, but it was fine. So it's kind of nice to just get more Life is Strange, you know, at this point. Those characters, anyway. I know there's still True Colors we gotta cover, but I'm kind of trying to put that off as long as I can, because as soon as I play True Colors, it's over. That's it. There's no more Life is Strange, you know, until 2027 or something. I don't know when the fuck they're gonna bring out the next game. So yeah. You know, better take my time with it or whatnot. I still can review the Life is Strange fan films or whatnot. Maybe that'll be part of a Jay-Z movie or something like that in the future here. So we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, yeah, I liked this well enough. I'm looking forward to seeing how this ends and where they take the comics. The comics overall have been extremely positive in terms of Life is Strange and adding to the lore of the universe, and I like that. Oh, Victoria Chase was in this issue. I forgot to mention that. How did I forget to mention that? She was in Chloe's timeline. She didn't go to the reunion or whatever, but apparently she made it out, and she referenced being in the dark room, and that's how she, like, survived, kind of like David. So pretty cool, actually. She was in this. I guess that's cool. I don't know. It's interesting, regardless, but it'll be sad to see Max have to go back and then leave Rachel Amber and Chloe, who are, like, her new best friends now, or whatever. But she needs to get back to her Chloe, too. But Rachel's going to be the biggest loss there, of course. That's going to really suck. So, yeah. But anyway, you know, until next time, never hurts to read between the lines. So, I'll see you guys in the next one.